Now this jar is empty, but by the time we get to the end of this video it will be filled with 12 romance recommendations from some of my favourite booktubers, and this is my equivalent then of 12 recs from 12 friends. And then the intention is that I'll pull one recommendation from the jar every month in my TBR videos, and this will help me build my TBR for the following month. So let's put this here and we'll fill it up as we go. So I'm sure, like you do, I have got a lot of favourite booktubers who I follow and subscribe to on YouTube, and over the last couple of weeks the majority of booktubers have been releasing their top romance recommendations of 2024. So I've been very diligently going through all of the videos from all of my favourite booktubers and picking out one book from their top 10 videos that I haven't read but that I'm particularly interested in to read. And this is a variety of books that have been on my mind for a while, I've just not been able to fit them in yet, as well as putting some in here that I've never heard before, but after watching their videos they convinced me to put it on to my list. Now obviously I could only pick 12, so there are many more booktubers who I like and follow and watch their videos regularly that aren't listed here, and there are also a couple of booktubers that you'll know that I like but are suspiciously missing from this list. And towards the end I'll talk a bit more about why a couple of those booktubers aren't on here. So what I'll do first is go through each of the books that I've selected. I've actually got 12 that I've put onto bits of paper that I'm going to fold and put into the jar as we go, and at the end I'll also talk about some other books that came highly recommended that appeared on multiple people's top lists and why they're not in my jar. Okay, so like I said, I've already selected 12 books that I want to put into my jar and written them onto bits of paper. So in no particular order, I'm going to take one, I'm going to let you know what it is, which booktuber recommended it, and then we'll fold it up and put it into the jar. So the first booktuber that I've got here is Riley Marie. I really like her videos. She's got quite a large following, but she reads a very eclectic mix of books, so she doesn't just focus on romances, she reads a lot of other types of romances as well, including fantasy, thriller, mysteries. So there's quite a few books on her list that didn't particularly interest me, but the one that caught my attention and I thought, that sounds very interesting, I'll give that one a go, is a book called Stolen by the Wolves by Lix Robinson, and this is a Viking Omegaverse romance story. Now I think this one is part of a series, so we've got the same characters in book one as we've got through the rest of the series. So I'll read book one and then see how I get on and see if I want to continue. But the blurb on this one says, once the walls of Dublin take control, who knows what they plan to do with us? They are savages and we are at their mercy. It is the year 1870. Hordes of Vikings sweep through the green lands of Northumbria and Ireland, raiding and pillaging. Soon no kingdom will be safe from their bloodlust. Tamsin has always been safe behind the walls of her sanctuary, safe enough to yearn for a glimpse of the world beyond, but with the Viking threat looming, even her secretive kingdom must open its gates to invite allies, and she gets far more than a glimpse. The three lords of Dublin are on the hunt for women of her kind. Thrain Mordson, youngest of the three and bent on a personal vendetta, doesn't take much stock in the ancient prophecies. He marches into battle for the glory rather than the spoils, until he finds himself standing right in front of a fiery-haired princess, and the touch of her hand wakes an ancient magic in them both. Once Thrain has earned Tamsin's trust, once he has tasted her in the darkness of her god house, his loyalties begin to splinter, and all he knows is that he must protect her from the coming storm at any cost. So, like I said, I really liked the way that Riley Marie sold this one to me, and so that is the one I picked from her top reads of last year, and so I'm going to fold that up and put that one into the jar. So the next one then I've got here is The Starting Line by McKay Marie, and that was recommended by That Tall Book Girl. Now I don't know if you follow That Tall Book Girl as well, but you'll know that she is actually starting out on her own author journey. Her first book comes out this month, if it hasn't done already by the time this book comes out, and therefore she is not going to be doing YouTube anymore. However, she did give us a top 5 romances of 2024, and Starting Line was one of them. And of course Starting Line is also by another booktuber, oh hey it's McKay, and she has started a like a rock star romance series, and she's also done this one, which was a sports romance. Now, a couple of the booktubers have recommended this one. I have wanted to get to one of hers and read a book from her, and so I thought this was a great opportunity to pick this one and put this one into the jar. So this is going to go into the jar as well. So starting line is a sports romance. I think it's actually a gymnast romance, and it's kind of set around the Olympics. It's a friends with benefits forced proximity romance, and the blurb says, JT Brenner is America's golden girl, the one they love to love. Gold is a heavyweight, but I've learned to carry it with grace. It's what they expect as I prepare for another Olympic Games. Smile, entertain, and most importantly, win. I've sacrificed everything for gymnastics and the sport has taken its toll. I'm not sure how much I have left in me, but I also don't know who I am without it. So what do I do when my finish line is rapidly approaching and the stress of training reaches a boiling point? I allow the one person I thought I hated to help me find myself. For the first time, I'm getting validation for the sacrifices I made for the gold from the only one person who can truly understand them. The last person I would have expected. I've always prided myself on having unbreakable focus in and out of the gym. That is until Caleb Callahan begins to crack it, little by little. Then from Caleb's perspective, it says, America's bad boy, the one everyone loves to hate. I'm a winner. It's what I do and who I am, and they hate me for it. They love the gold I bring home for them, but disgrace me when I celebrate it. I don't let it get to me though. Not when my goal for my third Olympics is bigger than gold and anything they have to say. It's bigger than my love for swimming itself. I'm fulfilling my late father's wish to surpass his world record, and nothing will stop me. Not the negative opinions of my character, not the documentary team that's following my every move, and definitely not TJ Brenner. She hates me upon first sight, but I can work with that. Even the golden girl can't resist the charm of a born and bred winner, and when the stress reaches a boiling point between our training and filming, a simple arrangement to blow off some steam sounds like a good idea. The only thing is, not doing feelings is easier said than done. So next up I've got Whispers of the Deep by Emma Hamm. This was recommended by Ava from Ava's Romance Books, and I believe this one is kind of a fantasy romance, and it's between a human and kind of a merman. So that's folded up and going to be popped into the jar there as well. So this one is book 1 in the Deep Water series, and the blurb says, one of the many engineers that keeps Beta, the city under the sea, running, Mira only wants to make her family proud and to prove herself worthy. She knows the mysterious city better than anyone, and it's her dream to help it flourish. But then, on a solo job in an abandoned section of the city, she encounters a monster of legend, an Undine, a dangerous merman from an ancient civilization long forgotten. Argus has fought his entire life for his people. With deadly creatures under his control, he plans to eradicate Beta once and for all to protect his kind and their peaceful way of life. But when a human woman saves him, she unknowingly creates a bond between them, one he can't ignore. Even though her flaming red hair haunts his dreams, he needs her for information on the Undine's enemies. So he steals her, keeps her, feeds her, only to realise their bond is far deeper than captor and captive. He cannot let her go, but he cannot keep her under the sea. In a battle to determine if love can survive a war beneath the waves, it will be their decision that changes the tides. Okay, so next up I have Playbook by Rebecca Jenshak, and this was recommended by Tori from A Novel Life, and this one I believe is a fake dating sports romance. In fact, this particular book was recommended by 2 other booktubers as well. So this one comes highly recommended, and as you know, I'm a sucker for a fake dating romance, so this one absolutely had to go into my jar. So this one is actually book 2 of the Holland Brothers series, and it basically says that Brogan 6's fan mail has been filling my inbox for weeks. With every lipstick covered letter I receive, my irritation with him grows. And let's not talk about the time I accidentally opened one of the packages to find someone had sent him their panties. Gross. When I come face to face with my new nemesis, I expect to give him a piece of my mind and we'll go our separate ways. Me to an empty mailbox and him to sift through his panty collection. That is not what happened. I don't know if it was a booze, his clever wit, or if I was tricked. I'm sure I was tricked. But now I'm fake dating the Maverick's hot new rookie, and I might just be the next woman to lose her panties to Brogan 6. So like I said, I'm an absolute sucker for fake dating sports romances, so I'm really looking forward to picking that one out of the jar. Next up then, I've got The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea by Elizabeth O'Rourke, and this one was recommended by Jess from Peace Love Books. This is an enemies to lovers, a contemporary romance. Incidentally, this was also recommended to me by a viewer, so that will not go into my big jar. I'll just keep that in my little jar. Okay, so this one is actually book 2 of the Grumpy Devils series. And the first book is Deal with the Devil, which I actually did read in 2023 and was one of my favourite reads of that year as well. So the blurb on this one says, you don't really know a guy until you've vacationed with him. When Drew Wilson's ex-boyfriend Joel Six Bailey asks her to go on his family trip to Hawaii with him, just as her life is falling apart, she decides it's the perfect time to give him another chance. The hitch. The Bailey family includes Six's rude older brother, Joshua, a hot nerd doctor who has hated Drew since the moment they met and once suggested she'd steal the family silver. Drew is determined to win the Baileys over and give this thing with Six a fair shot, but Joshua is making that difficult. Not simply because he is in her way at every turn, but because as one tropical adventure leads to the next, she's beginning to wonder if obnoxious, odious Joshua might be... Well, then it just stops. I'm not sure what it might be, it just says, and then it might be. And then on the version that I've got, it just stops. But I'm wondering, it should say the devil. But we'll see. Okay, next up then I've got The Beast Takes a Bride by Julianne Long. And this was recommended by Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. And this one is a historical romance. So I really wanted to put an historical one in here. I don't read a lot of historical romances, but some of the ones I have read I have enjoyed, and so this one sounded intriguing to me, and since it has the word beast in the title, it was kind of like an instant yes for the list. So this is actually book 8 of the Palace of Rogues series, but I'm assuming I can read it out of order and it will be fine. The blurb says, a blue-blooded beauty bartered to a beast. He would pay any price to possess her, but even though Alexandra Bellamy sacrifices herself to save her family's fortunes, a shocking betrayal sunders her marriage to a taciturn brute of a war hero, Colonel Magnus Brightwall, before it even begins. 5 years of icy separation later, a scandal, with Alexandra at the middle, reunites them, and Magnus issues an edict. They will confront the Ton, rescue their reputations, then Magnus will banish her to another continent. Forever. But alone in a suite at the Grand Palace on the Thames, a new battle begins between pride and the unexpected volcanic passion stirring between them. The danger is real. Magnus rediscovers why Alexandra is the only woman who could ever break him, and even as she lays bare the beautiful heart beating beneath the battered hide of the near stranger she married, Alexandra knows she may have already lost him, even as she finally falls fatally, irrevocably in love. So like I said, that one really appealed to me. Crystal sold that historical romance to me, and so I'm excited to give that one a try. Next up here then we have The Grownup by Gillian Flynn. And this was recommended by Katie Colson. Now Katie Colson is another booktuber, and she has an absolutely brilliant style when it comes to creating videos. I just absolutely love her. I watch her videos and she absolutely makes me laugh. It's just brilliant. The thing is, a bit like Riley Marie, she has a very eclectic mix of books that she reads, and she doesn't just read romances. So I don't always watch every single one of her videos, but I think that she's so entertaining to watch that I just love following her anyway. And so this book is actually the only one on my list that isn't a romance. In fact, it's a short horror, because I believe it's only around the 70-page mark. But she really convinced me that I could give this one a go. In fact, October is probably the perfect time to read this one because it's like a horror. And also, I've never read anything by Gillian Flynn before, and obviously she's done some pretty famous books, including Gone Girl. So this one is being folded up and popped into the jar there. So really, like I say, this is just a short story, and it's about a young woman who is making a living faking it as a cut price psychic with some illegal softcore sex work on the side. She makes a decent wage mostly by telling people what they want to hear, but then she meets Susan Burke. Susan moved to the city 1 year ago with her husband and 15-year-old stepson Miles. They live in a Victorian house called Carter Hook Manor. Susan has become convinced that some malevolent spirit is inhabiting their home. The young woman doesn't believe in exorcism or the supernatural. However, when she enters the house for the first time, she begins to feel it too, as if the very house is watching her, waiting biding its time. So like I said, this is a short story. If I pick this one out, it'll be a fun, quick read. It's outside of my comfort zone. I don't normally read this type of book, and I hope it's not too scary because I'm not very good with scary things, but it just sounded really great and I thought I'd give it a try. Next up, I've got Born of Ice by Daisy Thorn, and this one was recommended by Lizelle Loves Books, and I believe this is a hockey figure skating romance. So again, another sports romance, and I've been having a great amount of luck with ice hockey romances in particular, as you'll know if you watch my top 10 romances of last year, and so I'm hoping that this one will be another winner. So this is actually book 1 of the Reborn series, and the blurb says, do you believe in soulmates, the kind whose paths were meant to cross long before it came to pass, the ones who talk without hearing and hear without talking? Because I didn't. Not until Exton Quinn unceremoniously bursted through my front door and declared he was here to stay. He bulldozed his way through every wall and decided he was going to fight my battles, the ones I had no weapons or desire for. Why fix what's broken beyond repair? Why try to mend the dreams that crushed under one slipped blade? So that is going into the jar as well. Next up, I've got The Scattered Bones by Nicole Scarano, and this was recommended by April from Happily Ever April. This one is a dark fantasy romance. The blurb on this one says, when a mysterious man known only as the Stranger promises to return Kate to her, Stella is tasked with finding each one of her lover's scattered bones, his severed body hidden in the darkest corners of the realm. The quest is an impossible task, yet she must make the dangerous journey alone, using only her own faith and fight. But the tasks at hand are brutal, their battles not easily won. But Stella doesn't care how treacherous the challenges are. She'll do whatever it takes, because it was her fault Cade was punished. Promised to the primordial goddess as a child, it was Stella's sacred duty to remain pure and untouched. To be chosen as the goddess's vessel was the highest honour, one Stella devoted her life to, until the handsome thief Cade broke into the temple. He obliterated her world, rewriting her future, and despite her vows, she couldn't resist the beautiful longing that ignited between them. Their forbidden friendship bloomed into a dark romance, sending her love and her beloved thief down a dark path of heartbreak, unspeakable danger, and a love that not even death could conquer. I just thought that sounded really, really good, and I like the idea that you know, you have to kind of search for the missing pieces of your loved one, and what you would do to get them, but it sounds very intriguing, so that one is going into the jar. Next up then we have Learn Your Lesson by Kandi Steiner. This was recommended by Sam from Sam Reads a Little, and this is another sports romance, another ice hockey romance. I absolutely love Kandi Steiner. I've read her Red Zone Rivals, which is a football series, and really, really enjoyed that, and a few other books from her, and so really want to give this series a go, and so definitely want to pick this one up. So that is going into the jar. So this one is book 3 of the Kings of the Ice series. And the blurb says, Chloe Knott had one lesson growing up: men are trash, until Perry blows her quiet world to smithereens. Starting goalie for the Tampa Bay Ospreys, and the kind of hot that scrambles your brain, Will is impossibly grumpy and focused on only 2 things: hockey and taking care of his daughter. Fiercely independent and guarded, Chloe was only supposed to be his daughter's kindergarten teacher, until in a twist of events she becomes his nanny. When she moves into Will's pool house, everything changes. Chloe feels Will's heated gaze beneath that permanent scowl, the way it lingers and warms her skin. When the tension becomes too much, they make a deal. Will still needs a nanny and Chloe still needs a paycheck. Will might be her boss, but he agrees to teach Chloe everything she has always wanted to learn, and she is all too eager to be his student. Chloe is a grown woman. She can explore her curiosities with the hottest goalie on earth and still remain 100% professional, and she can do it all without catching feelings, right? Just 2 more left now, and we have Shattered Obsession by Tina Spencer. This was recommended by McKay from Oh Hey It's McKay, and this one is a dark hockey romance. So again, really into the ice hockey romances, and I love a dark romance obviously, so this one really appealed to me, and McKay's talked about this one on a number of occasions, and it's made its way into her top 10 for last year, so definitely want to give that a try. The only thing with it, again, like one of the other books, is that I believe it's part of a series, and so we follow the same couple through a number of books, but I'm going to give this first one a go and see how I get on. So this is book 1 of the Hudson Yard series, and the blurb says, he's a hockey god and her brother's best friend. She's starting over in New York City and helping clear his name. They're navigating a dangerous game, torn between loyalty, love, and a life-changing secret from the past. Zoe. Everything in life is temporary and eventually everyone leaves. Everyone except for my older brother Aaron, who is a billionaire realtor residing in New York City. We haven't seen each other in a while, but that's about to change, thanks to my PR company relocating me to New York City, which means I'll be moving in with Aaron. And guess who lives in the same building? His best friend Dominic Lewis, the captain of the New York Slashers pro hockey team and the guy who has had a grudge against me forever. To make matters worse, Dominic recently got himself into some trouble for being a notorious player, and I've been reluctantly assigned to help clear his name. But how do you pretend to date someone who can't even stand to be in the same room as you? Dominic. She is the sole object of all my pain and desire. I've spent years trying to let go of my obsession with my best friend's sister, especially after that night in Boston at a masquerade ball where a terrible secret was born. I've pushed everything aside and focused on what truly matters, hockey. It was all going well until Zoe showed up out of the blue, throwing my life into complete disarray. The past and present are intertwining, but I need to forget the night she unknowingly revealed her darkest fantasies to me. And finally then, I've got Lights Out by Navessa Allen. This was recommended by quite a number of booktubers actually, but I picked it up from Christy Reads a Lot, and this is a dark rom-com, I believe. I know the caption on this one, those who slay together stay together, so I think it's also supposed to be like a dark sort of stalker serial killer sort of romance as well. But let's have a look at the blurb. So this one is, I want someone with a soul as black as night, someone who would burn the world down for me and not lose a single minute of sleep. Trauma nurse Ali escaped her hard-working days by thirsting after masked men online. To her, nothing could top the fantasy of her favourite tattooed and masked man hunting her down, but she never could have guessed that one drunken text would turn those dreams into reality. I want things most people don't, craving darkness and depravity instead of light and love. Josh has spent his life avoiding the limelight, but his online persona is another story. At night he posts mass thirst traps for his millions of fans until one follower catches his eye, Ali. Together, Ali and Josh live out their darkest fantasies, unaware that Ali has captured the attention of someone with far more sinister intentions. As Josh turns from predator to protector, he must ask himself how far he'll go for the woman he can't live without. So that is also going into the jar. So now that is 12 recommendations from 12 booktuber friends, and if you like the sound of those books and you want to hear more from the booktubers themselves, then I'll make sure that I link all of their recommendation videos in the description box down below, so you can check out all of their top books of 2024 as well. Now, like I said at the start, there's a couple of booktubers that are missing from here, and I just wanted to flag those as well. First up, if you've watched any of my videos, then you'll know that my absolute favourite booktuber is Jen from The Book Refuge, and I subscribe to her Patreon and also a quarterly book box that she does as well. As a result, if she loves a book, I tend to pick it up and read it. So all of her favourites from 2024, I pretty much read them all. There was just 3 exceptions, and the reason I haven't put any of them into my jar is because I'm highly likely to read these and therefore don't need to be nudged to read them. So the first one is The Love Contract by Sophie Lark. This made it onto her honourable mentions and definitely on my list of books that I want to get to. Jump on 3, which is book 3 in the Savage Academy series that I've been reading by Julia Wolfe. I've read books 1 and 2 already, absolutely love both of those. Really excited to read book 3, and in fact I've just ordered an annotated copy of that book from Jen as well, so I'll be getting that hopefully by the end of February, so I'll probably be picking that one up in March. And then also by Julia Wolfe is In the Details, and that also happens to be a book that I've recently acquired from Jen as part of my most recent quarterly book box from her, so that's definitely something I'm going to be reading soon as well. So I just wanted to point that out in case anyone wondered why one of her recommendations isn't in here. Also, another booktuber I absolutely love is More to Mary. So far she hasn't actually created a top romances of 2024 yet, but I do have a number of her recommendations on my TBR anyway, and I'm sure I'll get to those soon. And then also Amber Reads Romance. She is also another booktuber that hasn't actually published her top romances of 2024 yet, but I will definitely be watching that, and I'm sure I'll pick up some of her favourites as well. So in addition to the 12 I picked, I did want to give a shout out to a couple of other books as well. The first one being a book called Unsteady by Peyton Corinne. Now Unsteady is kind of a sports romance as well. It's a romance between an ice hockey player and a figure skater. A number of booktubers had this in their top 10, like 4 or 5 booktubers recommended this one, and it is a book I did read in 2024. It didn't make it to my top 10, but I did really enjoy it and absolutely understand why it's in a lot of people's favourites. And incidentally, the second book in that series, though the second ever book from Peyton Corinne, is coming out really soon, so look out for that, and I think it's called Unloved. Also, a number of booktubers recommended Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I haven't read this one, I don't intend to read this one, but I wanted to point it out because it did make it into a number of top 10s for the year. Obviously Elsie Silver's Wild Love and Wild Eyes were both also recommended on a number of occasions, both of which books I've read, and also agree they are good books. Again, they didn't make it onto my top 10, but were very, very close to get in there. Also, a woman's fiction book which was recommended by quite a few people, which is The Women by Kristen Hanna, and that's a historical women's fiction book about the Vietnamese War and the impact of one woman in particular when she comes back from the war after helping as a nurse. And finally, the Bourbon Boys series by Victoria Wilder was also highly recommended, and I believe she's done 2 books so far in that series, which is Bourbon and Lies and also Bourbon and Secrets, and the 3rd book is due out in June this year. So like I said, a number of booktubers recommended that series as well, and both of those books. So I thought I'd flag them. I didn't pick them to go into my top 12, but as I was watching everyone's videos, they were the books that kind of were talked about on more than one occasion. So there you go, that's 12 recommendations from 12 booktubers. All of their recommendations are now in this jar, and when I do my TBR video for the following month, I will make sure that I pick one of their recommendations out of this jar until hopefully by the end of the year and moving into next January, we'll have picked out every single book on this list. In fact, I'm just about to record my TBR video for February, so stay tuned and keep an eye out for that video coming soon where I pick my very first recommendation out of this little jar here. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me, and all that's left for me to do is say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Ooh. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And finally, the Bourbon Boys series by Victoria Wilder. Even as she finally falls fatally, irrevocably. And then finally, the... Oh, really?